All right. I am so excited to be here, you guys. My name's Jackie Martin, and I'm with A Matter Motivation. And I'm so thrilled to talk about this particular topic, and because I think we are going through change like crazy. And I just want to give you some tools, some ideas, some thoughts about the best way to be able to not just manage or survive, but really lead and thrive through all the changes that are going on. And so here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Be sure you open up your chat at the bottom. Hover down there and open that up, because there's going to be some great information that we're going to be able to share back and forth. So I'm doing the same here, and I'll be asking you a few questions to be able to write there. But also get out a piece of paper and a pen, because I really am, this particular training will go a half a day, a full day, depending on if you're in a leadership position. And so we really just have this short amount of time, and you know me, I can talk fast if that's okay with you, but we are recording it, so you'll have it. But also, I want you to take a couple of notes, and then if you find, wow, my organization or my volunteers or my board or my team would love to go deeper, please let's connect afterwards and talk about how that might work for you. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of background, I am the owner of A Matter of Motivation, and we do all kinds of training and development for in the corporate world and for nonprofits. And this particular topic, I have been actually certified in and teaching for about 25 years. And I can't tell you a time when I felt like it was more essential, more relevant than it is today. So what I'm going to be sharing with you is essentially a roadmap to what's going on right now. Because I don't know if you feel this way, but that's kind of the way it feels right now, does it not? Like changes and things are swirling so quickly, it's almost a blur. And that can really shut us down sometimes. And so there's just so much going on with our current situation, with COVID-19. And here's why this is so, even though we're 10 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks into this giant change, there are so many residual changes, little things, big things that are coming off of it, that are still going on. I think it's so important. But here's the other thing that I really believe, you guys. The changes that we're experiencing to be coming home, or to be in lockdown and all that stuff, those are huge, have been huge. I think bigger changes are coming now, because I don't believe that we're actually going back to the way things were entirely, that even the old way is going to be new to us. And so the quicker we can get this skill called change down, the better. So here's where your first chance is. You guys get your fingers ready to send me something in chat. Now let me get my chat open here. I want you to tell me, what is change? So when you hear that term change, tell me what it is. What's your definition of change? So just go ahead and chat it over there. Anything at all. There's no right or wrong. Anything that you would consider to be change. How would you define it? When the norm looks different, good, something new. Okay, excellent. Anything that's not normal, isn't that interesting? Okay, new needs, circumstances. Yep. Okay, excellent. Oh, I love that veering from moving outside. I like it. Okay, shift a routine. Excellent. You guys are all on track. And in fact, it really is, in the definition of what we're going to be talking about today, the experience is something new. In other words, we've not gone through this before. And I don't know if you realize at the bottom of your screen is a little thing that gives you a chance to give some reactions. So if you'll flip down there, you'll see a thumbs up, or you'll see a hand wave. How many of you agree we are going through massive something news? Okay, all right. So we're in the middle of massive change. And here's oftentimes the way it feels. Things just aren't the way they used to be. So that's part of the reason many of us put the word normal. Normal was the way it used to be. Now it's not normal anymore, and that's what changes. Okay, so keep that thought in mind as we're talking about the fact that change dictates the old way, and then we got to bring in the new way. But that's so awkward because we don't want to give up the old way, and there's just a lot of things going on. So here's what I want to ask you about. Of all of these are types of changes. There are so many more. Which one would you chat over in the chat box? Which ones or one do you find is really the most prevalent for you right now? What are you experiencing the most? And unfortunately, I am not seeing my chat right now. Hang on, let me go back up. All right. Hey, Wendy, do me a favor because I'm not seeing my chat. Would you just read a couple of those? So
I'd be happy to. So
okay.
Technology, work location, togetherness or lack thereof, distractions, a lot of technologies,
Yes.
a lot of isolation, and being together.
Nice, nice. You know, that togetherness thing, sometimes it's like not enough togetherness and sometimes it's too much togetherness. Yeah, because that can also lead to the distractions. Okay, so
Jackie?
Yeah.
Jennifer still doesn't have sound. Is there a phone number?
There would be a phone number at the very bottom, and it also is in the invitation. So if you'll look back on the invitation that was sent out, there should be some numbers. If someone wouldn't mind finding that and putting that in but please put the password too. So you should see phone number, password, there's a code and a password. Margot, have you got that?
I do.
Okay. All right. If you wouldn't mind
I don't
putting
have the phone number though. I have the meeting ID and the password.
Okay, hang on just a second. Then let me, I gotta hop out of here real quick. Hold on just a moment.
And she might need to just call in again, because it usually gives you a choice between using computer or using phone, and it might give her it that way also.
That's actually a good idea. Why don't you try going out and coming back in? Be sure your speakers are off of, not just off of mute, but check your computer to make sure the sound is on, because sometimes I've done that too, where I didn't click on the button and I had my own computer sound turned down. So let's see if that will work. And let me just give you one more thing. Hang on just a moment. Just a sec. I was going to go to see if my Zoom invitation had the, okay, hang on a second. Let me put it here. That's, do I not see a phone number there? I don't. Okay, stand by. One more place I'm going to look, and then we'll continue. All right. Yeah, I don't seem to have kept the number in the invitation at all. I am so sorry. Yeah, see if you can come back out. Go out and come back in. If not, then going next.
And then somebody else brought up a thing about doing it through the app also.
Doing the through Zoom, through the Zoom app. You can go through there too as well. Okay.
Yeah, I had to download the app because it wasn't compatible with any of my browsers. I'm on a Mac.
Okay.
And it's an older Mac, so I can only get so many versions of upgrades on my browsers. So I had to actually download the app to get that.
Okay. So. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's all right. So let me just suggest a couple of things. Thank you guys. This is teamwork. I want to, let's just say this about what was normal and the experience. We do get resistance, don't we, to change? Anybody ever feel it? And here's the way it shows up. It can be resistance, which is really like, I don't want to do this. Reluctance, anger, even denial. And at worst, it's depression. So let me just ask y'all, how many of you felt maybe all of this during these last few weeks? Give me a thumbs up if you've been at some point somewhere, or you've watched others go through all of this. And really, this is what it may look like to you. Actually, Kubler-Ross put together the cycle of death and dying really around grief. And very much this, the emotions that we go through during times of change are the same. It ultimately, obviously, grieving for the loss of someone is the ultimate change, but it happens in many ways. And sometimes for some of us, even the small stuff feels difficult to go through. So what we're going to go through now is to really talk about what this actually means, because this isn't new. And it isn't new because we're experiencing COVID-19 or because our society is going so fast. It's been going on since human beings have been around, since Socrates is telling us, hey, stop fighting the old. Put your energy into the new. Maybe some of you have already seen some of that happen with what you're going through. But let me have you do something for me for a minute, okay? So here's the way I want you to listen to what I'm going to share. I need you to have two hats on. I need you to have the hat on for yourself, because this is like being on an airplane when something's going wrong. We always put the mask on ourselves first, right? Very difficult to help other people if we're struggling with this. So I really want you to listen for yourself. But I also want you to listen for those who are around you, whether it's your entire organization, whether it's individuals on your team, whether it's your family. And what I'd like you to do is to recognize, I'm going to show you 6 stages. Recognize where you are and where everyone around you is. Make sure you recognize it. And then each stage, I'm going to give you a way to move past it. Because here's the deal. You can push and push and push to get your organization to change. But until the people in that organization get comfortable with the change, it's not going to happen. You with me on that? You've seen that, right? Where you've tried to move things through. It's a great idea. Let's go, let's go. But really, anybody, if they're dragging their feet on it, can slow that down. And so, listen, leaders, we want to be sure we're helping individuals change and get comfortable so that the organization can make a change. So I want you to know that what I'm going to be sharing with you is based on neuroscience, and it goes back, way back. Do you guys remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs back in high school and college? Y'all remember that? Thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. So listen, by the way, below safety and survival actually now is Wi-Fi, because, you know, we all know that'll ruin things. But we know it's all of this that we're going to be sharing is based on the way the brain processes information. It taps into our instinctual fight or flight nature, so that tendency toward that, it's built on neural networks. Listen, when you and I haven't experienced something, we have no experience, no neural pathway to tell us how to cope with it. So if it's totally new, we have to lay down new neural pathways, and that's can be uncomfortable and make us feel like that. I mean, we're talking quantum physics here. It's all going on. And for you and I right now, it's going on simultaneously with multiple changes. So let's talk for just a minute about what this is. Really, here are some things to recognize that are predictable about the brain. We create responses that are predictable and sequential. Everything I'm going to share with you, you're going to recognize. Everything I'm going to share with you, you've done, we've done, we all do it, we're still doing it, we'll recognize it in everybody else. Here's the other thing, because we've never done it before, we don't know how to cope with it, so we go to look for something similar. So we tend, unfortunately, to distort, delete, and generalize. I'll tell you more about that, but that's normal in the brain. Here's the other thing, it makes no differentiation between good or bad, even between externally or internally imposed changes. I know a lot of people go, what? How can that be? The brain is neutral. It just goes through what it needs to cope with the situation. We're the ones that assign the emotional baggage to it. All of this is going at the on the unconscious level. What we want to do is sort of bring to awareness what it is and how we're feeling so that we can move it along. Okay, couple little more things about the brain and about the change cycle itself. Here's two things I can't predict, and everybody's different. How long is it going to take you to go through these 6 stages? I don't know. And how intensely are we going to feel it, or people on your team are going to feel it? I don't know. And part of that is because it's based on our personality, our style, what we've been through in our past. All of those things factor in. And I will also say right now, the fact that we have 20 changes we're having to cope with or something at a time can dictate how easily you respond. So I'm just curious, let's find this out. Type in the chat box, how many of you would say you are, I'm going to put it this way, we'll say a really great changer, like you love change so much, you like seek it out because you get bored if you're not changing. Okay, I'm a mega changer. Maybe you're in the middle. I'll deal with it. I can do okay, but I kind of like things the way they are. Or are you on that spectrum of, hey, look, things are great the way they are. Why upset the apple cart? I don't like change. So would you write one of those 3 levels that you feel like you really are? I mean, there's no right or wrong. It's all good. Put that in chat if you would. Okay. Okay, so I'm loving seeing, and it's kind of in the middle. Sometimes it depends. Some people love change, maybe even you get bored if there's not enough of it. Okay, good. But here's what I want you to recognize. Wherever you are, there are people you're working with and for and around who are different. So part of this is going to help you recognize that. Now, we have tools to help you to assess this. We're not working with them today, but again, if you want something like this for your organization to find out exactly where people are and how to move them along, we'd love to help you. Okay, now, I'm going to move into this change cycle, and I want to just give you a couple characteristics about it. There are 6 predictable sequential stages. You're going to recognize them. What it's going to do is provide a map for how we move through these different stages. And here's something else too that I'm hoping it will do. It's going to validate the thoughts, feelings, and behavior that we are all having during massive change. Any change whatsoever, obviously, but especially right now. You know what it's like. Sometimes you don't want people to solve the problem. Sometimes we just want to be heard, right? We want to be told what we're thinking or feeling is normal. And so each one of these stages, I'm going to share with you normal thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And then that one way to move along, I want you to just recognize that this should help you validate. That coping skill I'm going to give you, every stage has one really key. There's lots of things, but one key that you're going to be able to do. So in just a second, I'm going to want you to take your piece of paper out. And would you draw a circle, please? So get your piece of paper out, draw a circle. Now, again, I have all the tools for this, but for now, this is a great way to capture it. And if you'll kind of check it out, where it's a circle and there's 6 pieces of pie. That's my favorite. And if you'll notice at the top, what is that? The very top, that's where the change comes in. Do you see that? Okay, so if you'll also notice, first off, chat for just a minute. When you're looking at this, what do you notice? What are you seeing? Any have any idea what you're seeing? Seeing the colors? Seeing the fact that it's a circle? Here's what's interesting. Flow, I like that. Yeah, a lot of us want to think of change as linear, beginning, middle, and end, but it doesn't work that way. Change is cyclical. Change is going on all the time. And if you'll notice here that it also, we kind of made it into something kind of familiar, if you can check it out there. Yep, those 2 first stages are red. because we're intended to stop. Those next 2 stages are yellow because we're supposed to experience caution. And those last 2 stages are green because it is go, go. And each of those stages has a specific need in them. So if you want to draw that circle, go ahead and put the stages around there. And then as we go, I'm going to go through each piece of the pie. And what you can do in each one of if you want to go ahead and make the pieces of pie, you write in there are thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, some characteristics that you'll recognize when I explain them. Write them in that little piece of the pie. But then on the outside, I'm going to give you the coping skill. Okay, so you can write that down there, and this is going to help us plan ahead for the next changes, because I'm telling you, we're not done. I mean, there's just so many unknowns, not just with COVID, but the way we're thinking, feeling, and behaving right now. I mean, this may look normal right now, and we went through a whole lot of changes to get it to this, but now as we start to re-enter, everybody's going to go back through the change cycle. We have to, because there are going to be people who will resist coming back. Maybe you've already experienced some of that. Okay. All right. So again, I'm going to go super quick through these, and I want to leave some time on the other end. And in fact, I'll be able to stick around for, 15 minutes or so afterwards to answer questions. So as you're rolling along, just recognize I'm going quick, but I'm there for you. And if I can dig deeper with you, I would love to. Okay. Let's start with the first 2 stages, loss and doubt. And I'm going to describe each one of them so you can take some notes on what it is you're going to recognize. Each one of them is going to have a little profile. So here's what you're going to know about loss. This is when a change first gets announced. We first heard about COVID. We first heard about lockdown. We first heard about going back. Whatever that is, stage 1 is like, it's like, wait, what? Wait a minute, hold on. What? So the dominant emotion here, and it's this to protect us, is fear. Like, wait, what? Hang on, they're gonna do what? Major focus is on self-protection, and that's a good thing. You should stop when you very first hear about something like this. The objective is to create personal safety, because it's hard to know what to be motivated by. Either we want to avoid pain or we want to move towards security, and in the process of it can often overuse paranoia. Like, we don't know very much here. We just heard about it. This is something new. I don't have a frame of reference on this. What do you mean we're staying home? What do you mean we can't go out without a? What are you talking about? That you guys remember this day when you were feeling this way? Maybe you still are feeling. What do you mean we're going back? How are we gonna? I don't understand. That's what loss is. The difficulty is we have to avoid moving into a victim mentality when we're feeling this way, and just learn to channel the fear into appropriate action. So just make note that the dominant emotion is fear, and that's good because we're supposed to stop for a second. This is similar to if you were walking through a forest and you almost stepped on a snake, and it almost happens instinctually that you drop back from, you know what I mean? That's what stage 1 is. It's like that. What we need, and this is what I want you to write on the outside of that part of the circle, this is the coping skill. When you and I are in stage 1 loss, what we crave and need, and we have to get before we move on, is safety. We need to know we'll be okay. We need to know we're not going to lose our job today. We need to know we're going to be fine. If I stay in, I'm going to be. Now, here's a dilemma right now. There's some real things to be afraid of. And so this has gotten people stuck or swirling back and around because there are so many uncertainties. I want to talk a little bit more about what that looks like. What we need to do is move people out of, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't learn new technology. What do you mean? I can't do this. I need to be eyeball to eyeball. We have to move them from I can't to I can. Now, remember, I'm saying we have to move them, but really, guess who we got to move first? Right. So it's us, because during stage 1, we can often confuse real versus imagined fears. Now, do me a favor. I want you to chat for just a second. I get it. There are some real fears here. Okay. So I don't want us to confuse that or minimize that. People are dying. There are people with health issues. There are jobs at stake, absolutely. But there are some times when we're starting to notice people overblowing what might be imagined fears. And so I'll give you just a little benign example. My son went off to college and he had all kinds of fears about it. He was worried about not making friends. He was worried about not getting good grades. He was worried about being home, all kinds of stuff. But then when we really sat down, this is how you move people to safety. And we wrote those things down. What we recognized was, okay, what's real? He always gets good grades and he always makes friends, but okay, you might be homesick, but can you deal with that? Yeah, probably. So here's what I want you to type in the chat box, would you? What are the potential imagined fears that people may be feeling? And let's talk about what I'm talking about when I say imagined is that there really isn't evidence to prove that it's true necessarily, because there are some real fears out there. So do me a favor, chat, if you can think of anything that might be imagined that might be blown out of proportion, like we're all going to lose our jobs or things like that. Some of that's where we go in stage 1. So chat there. If we go to work, if any of us go to work, we're all going to get the virus. That's one of them. I'll never be able to go outside again. Okay, you're with me here. Here's what's driving people's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors in stage 1. This is kind of an easy one to spot. It's because we feel out of control. We're confused about what's real, what's not real, and truthfully, we become so cautious that we don't know who to trust. Anybody? Have you seen this? Have you felt this? And what tends to happen when people are in stage 1 is they isolate. And unfortunately, that can be the worst thing to do when you're worried about these things. So how do we move people into safety? Well, we ask some pointed questions. One is, now I get this is, you got to watch out for this one. What's the worst that can happen? I mean, obviously there's some worse things that can happen, but in many situations, like going back, there are some things we could live with. But really, let's just go to what's most likely to happen. And that's where data and statistics can help. But you guys, listen, I know we're talking about a very serious situation, but this reaction happens with every change. It happened to me when I moved from another city to Atlanta, and I got here, and I used to know this other city by the back of my hand, and I got here and got lost every turn I made. I'm telling you, the roads are built on a diagonal. They all changed names, and they're all named Peachtree. I was losing my way everywhere, and I felt like I was in loss. Anybody recognize those kind of things? Okay, so as long as you see that there are ways that we can, okay, the toilet paper panic, absolutely, we were gonna have toilet paper. So if you can help yourself or others deal with the worst and what are the specific concerns you have, then you can move on to doubt. Okay, so stage 1, dominant emotion, fear, we need safety. Stage 2, now we start to go, okay, hold on, wait a minute, hold on. What's going on? This is where it had been more isolating and withdrawal, and now stage 2 starts to get a little bit loud. Here's what's happening. You'll recognize this. People go, wait a minute, hold on, what's going on here? It starts to be the dominant emotion of anger. And what happens is people begin to voice opinions. Like if you were in an office right now and they were in stage 2, they'd be hovered around the water cooler. People be talking about it. And a lot of times they start to coalesce a group that kind of agrees because there's some ego strength in being right. Look, this was a dumb idea. The old program that we were using was way better than this program. I don't know what's going on. And so doubts I call like the loud stage. You can hear it coming. And part of it's because it's fueled by resistance and anger to it. The objective is what you're going to write on the outside is people need accurate information and lots of it. Because here's what's happening. They're operating on opinions instead of facts. And they tend to overuse blaming others or blaming themselves. Sometimes, like if you decided to go on a diet and you were like, why do I have to go on a diet? How come my husband gets to eat anything he wants and I gained 20 pounds, just since lockdown? So it can show up external blaming or internal. The challenge is to manage the anger. And the anger is going to show up aggressive, but it's also going to be passive. You know what I'm talking about. Don't we see this on Facebook? Snarky stuff, aggravation with one another, being short-tempered. The opportunity here is to move out of doubt, and we've got to get to reality. We've got to find out what reality is by giving accurate information, and lots of it. Now, let me tell you, leaders, for just a minute, during this stage, the tendency is to try to run away from the people who are in this stage because it's like icky and they're loud and they're kind of sometimes in our face. So unfortunately, in the absence of information, people assume the worst. So you and I have to even be more present and giving out more information. So be sure that you continue to give them as much as you possibly can, because here's what's happening. Memories of the past, negative experiences, it's the baggage that's driving the thoughts, feelings, and behavior. People are feeling out of control because of what's new or what's different. The old way is the way they're trying to get back to, and they're not interested in the new way. So it's so important to be able to recognize what's going on. Okay, so here's what I want to do. Everybody pull out a pen again. Hang on a second. I want you to pull out a pen, and I'll show you what's happening here. You ready? Because we're going to play a little game. Okay, I want everybody to look at the screen. I'm going to show you a list of words, and I want you to write down all the words you can remember. We're going to leave it up for a moment, and then write down as many words as you can, and afterwards, let's see how you did. You ready? Okay, here are the words. And go ahead and write down what you can remember. Okay. All right, everybody got them? Okay, so I'm just curious, put up fingers about how many you wrote down. How many words did you write down? Just how many did you do? 2, 3, 4, 5, 3. Okay, 5. I got 2. Okay. Okay. So now, well, check it out. There were 12. So let's just look to see how you did. Everybody good? Okay, wait. Raise your hand if you wrote the word sleep. Wait a minute. It's not okay. And let me tell you what happened there. Remember I told you our brains delete, distort, and generalize? That's called schema. It's normal. It happens, especially in stages 1 and 2, but it's not accurate. So do you see, we're trying to come up with some way to cope with the old way, the new way, by attaching something from the old way, but it's not exactly the same. So the way we move out of that habit and into the next stage is we need accurate information. So write that on the outside. Okay, you ready to move on to the yellow stages? All right, now let me just say something about the yellow stages. These are supposed to look similar to a stoplight, and sometimes their behavior is the same way. Who are my people who, when you come to a yellow light, you slow down because it means caution? Raise your hand if that's you. You slow down. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, but how many of you actually come to a yellow light, and to you, that means gun it? All right, let me see who you are. Yeah, you know who you are. Okay, well, so either way, this happens during stage 3. Let's talk about it. Here's what occurs. Now we start moving into the change, and it's really super uncomfortable. Let me give you some of the identifying factors. This is where you're starting to make it work. So this might have been you a few weeks ago when you were like trying to get the technology right and trying to keep the kids out, trying to keep the dog quiet, and it's just frustrating, because you're focused on trying to solve a problem, because no two things can occupy the same space. Something new's coming in, the old way has to go out, and it's very frustrating. And so the objective here is to get some motivation. But what happens is, now tell me if you guys recognize this feeling. During stage 3, because we're so frustrated, we can tend to get really overwhelmed. And actually, easy things become hard. Stuff that used to be so easy, it like wears you out. Anybody find that, at the end of the day, you started to have fuzzy brain? You're like, I can't even do anything anymore. Or you'd wake up tired, right? Thumbs up if you felt any of these things. Easy stuff started to become difficult to do. That is classic and normal in stage 3. Here's the thing. We have to watch that we don't let overwhelm us. And the challenge is to keep anxiety from becoming fear, depression, or despair. And truthfully, that is a very real fear. People are worried, and it's important that we find a way to take small breakthrough steps. The classic feelings there of frustration, we want to move from discomfort into motivation. So on the outside, what we need to do when we're feeling that way, when we're exhausted, when we're tired, when we're overwhelmed, we need some motivation. And I called my company A Matter of Motivation because I know how important it is, but I also know it's an inside job. So you and I have got to find ways to help and motivate ourselves. So here's what's driving people: frustration, overwhelmed, confusion. Like, I don't know what do I even do? I don't know how to use this technology, or just lethargy, that tiredness. So let me ask you a question. I want you to put this in the chat box. What do you do to try to create mental distractions? Because one of the best ways to get through stage 3 and move on to get motivated is some kind of distraction. So everybody chat in there. What's been your favorite go-to thing to do that gets you motivated? Oh, cleaning. Oh, I like that. Video games. Yes. Webinars. Okay. You know what? Learning and upskilling yourself. Excellent. Organizing. You need to come to my house. Speed and work with the horses. Wonderful. So there's stuff it sounds like many people are already doing this. Also physical, anything physical. Move, get up. I love cross stitch and artwork, crafts, things like that work with your hands. Walk and talk, get out of the house, at least walk up and down. You know what the biggest benefactors of this whole thing are? Pets. They're loving us being around. So take physical action. Little steps will move you through the danger zone. And I'll tell you what that is. There's an overwhelming desire to give up in stage 3. I mean, it really can get overwhelming. And I'll give you just a simple, like, easy to think about. If you went on a diet, you know, and you get to stage 3 and it's hard and it's like, I'm hungry and I don't like this anymore. And wait, I just want comfort food right now. Giving into that, we are all familiar with what that feels like. But here's what happens. If you slip into, or you give up, you slip into the danger zone, you don't just go backwards, you go all the way back to the top because you make another change. And I got to tell you guys, stages 1, 2, and 3 are kind of icky. And it is no wonder if people give up all the time and all they experience is stages 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It is no wonder they hate change. Because the good stuff is when you hang on. And that's part of what we want to do. I love Churchill's phrase here: if you're going through hell, keep going, because you're going to get to the other side. And I will tell you this, getting from 3 to 4 can actually happen overnight sometimes. And I know you guys have experienced this. Did you in any way in these last few weeks suddenly wake up one morning and you kind of were like, I feel a little better? Raise your hand if you experienced that. Suddenly you just felt differently. Right? Okay. So yeah. So I mean, they can happen overnight. What we need to do is to recognize, here's what's happening. Moving from stage 3, which was overwhelming and could be depressing, to suddenly having hope as the dominant emotion. See, now we stop worrying about all the problems and we start seeing that there's some solutions here. Ooh, it feels great. Lots of brainstorming, lots of idea sharing, lots of enthusiasm. And in fact, there can be so much enthusiasm, you can brainstorm till the cows come home and never make a decision. So what you need to move out of stage 4 is to make a decision. Because let me ask y'all, have you ever been in a fabulous meeting? I mean, you brainstorm, maybe with your board, brainstorm, and you leave the meeting and you're like, did we decide anything? Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. Stage 4 can feel so good we can get stuck. We're not done yet. So don't get so excited that you slow down your progress. Make a decision, figure out how you want to act, and move on. And so that's our most important thing. So what, again, do people need here is they need help in making decisions. So if you've got team members or volunteers or whatever that are stuck brainstorming, then you might want to get some criteria to them about how they can make that decision. And part of what will help them is a little perspective. sometimes we've got to look at things differently. So right now, everybody say what you see out loud. Just, you don't have to unmute. Just say what you see out loud. You with me? Okay. Okay. Now say what it says there. Okay. Now what about this? Did anybody see things differently? So part of what our job is in stage 4 is to help people get perspective and move to the most positive decision-driven action. That's what we need. Okay, now these last 2 stages, I'm speeding up because really we're rocking it. When we get to this green stages, it is full go. I want to start with a stage called understanding and tell you a little bit about how you recognize this. The behavior here is confident. People are pragmatic. They're getting it done. Now, let me just say something. You remember stage 3? Y'all remember when you were tired and overwhelmed? What happens in stage 3 is productivity tanks. And part of the reason some organizations, or maybe you and I, feel that overwhelming desire to quit is because productivity drops, right? And we look at that and go, oh no, maybe I made a mistake, and we want to quit. Stage 5, if you'll hang on till then, productivity absolutely makes up for more so than stage 3 ever lost. So if you can hang on, get yourself and your team over to stage 5, and what understanding means is they get it. It's like, ooh, oh. Now, hold on just a minute. Let me just clarify something. This doesn't mean they have to like the change. You can understand a change even if you don't like it. And maybe some of the things we've been experiencing lately is like that. We get it. At least we get it. What happens when you get it is you start to really focus on accomplishment. You realize there are things called benefits, but there's a difference between features and benefits. And I'll give you an example. Has anybody, raise your hand if you'll admit this, anybody ever gone on a diet, lost a bunch of weight, got all kinds of compliments, new clothes, and then ended up gaining it back? Come on. All right. Here's what happens. Sometimes we get to this stage, we think we're done, and then we get all excited about the little features of this new me, and then we start to get a little prideful or arrogant. We forget what it took us to get there, and that we start into old habits. Stage 5, we're not finished. We have to focus on the benefits. So that's what goes on the outside of your circle. Focus on the benefits of what's happening, not just the features and the bells and whistles, but the benefits of why what we're doing was good, why it's accomplished things, why it is that we're continuing on, because you're not quite done yet. It hasn't just become the way you do things, because that's coming up. What's happening in stage 5 is people are confident and productive. Boy, here, leaders, take advantage of that. Productivity will increase. Ask them about what worked, how they can do it more quickly. They also want to help other people in this stage because they feel so confident. Give them the opportunity to help other people. It's a great spot to be able to capitalize on that. And how you do it, everybody always says this, whatever you want more of, highlight and celebrate. If you want more great behavior like this, then do something in yourself or in others to celebrate the wins. The big ones, the small ones, celebrate, celebrate. So I'm just curious, real quick in chat, right, how you celebrate. Like already, how do you celebrate? So just chat a couple of things of ways that you see stage 5 and go, what do you do either to celebrate for yourself or to celebrate with your team? Oh, nice. A hike, I like that. Get out, move around, take a deep breath, cheer on others. Nice. I'm telling you, the more recognition you can give to people when they're in this stage, when things are humming along, the more likely they will do it again. They will do it more. And one other idea is don't just share results-based recognition. You might need to share some activity-based also, because people need to feel like you're noticing them all the way. I love that from JC, call people. More is more all along the way. Okay, excellent. And now what we want to do is let's move into stage 6. Now here's stage 6. Stage 6 is just the way you do things. If I asked you to think back to some change you guys made a year ago, let's say 6 months ago, a year ago, you might have trouble even remembering what life was like before that. Anybody? You know what I'm talking about? Like when you look back, you're like, I can't even remember what it was. It's just the way we do things. That's what integration is like. The dominant emotion when you get to stage 6 and you've done it and you're like, this is just the way we do things, is compassionate. People become very philanthropic when they get to this stage in their career or in their finances. There's a desire to learn more, to know more, to help other people. But here's the deal. Sometimes you get to stage 6 and you think you've completely arrived and you stop moving, become complacent. You know, maybe even a little arrogant. Guys, we've seen companies, whole industries go under when they sat at stage 6 too long. So the objective here is to be even more flexible, to get ready for whatever that next change is going to be. And then capitalize on the compassion you feel. Help others who are coming through the cycle, help them recognize what to do and how to move through it. Okay, I told you I went quick. There's so much more even to share about how to recognize when somebody's in a stage. Real quick, looking at just what little I've told you, would you put a little check mark and then share in chat what stage you think you're in right now? Now, you may be going, well, with what change? Pick one. Pick one change you're experiencing and tell me if you recognized what stage you're in. So there's no right or wrong. Write it, just chat the number. Stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. Type that in chat, would you? Okay, so we've got some straddling. That's totally normal. In fact, some of you will have residual feelings throughout the whole thing. Okay, good. Some of you, in stage 6, stay flexible and get ready for the next change. Stay flexible and get ready for the next change. All right, so here's what I want you to also do. Now you're thinking about you. I want you to think about someone on your team or even in your family. And I want you to tell me where you think somebody, pick one person, might be in a change they're experiencing. What have you recognized based on what I just shared with you that would identify a particular stage of somebody else? And so just go ahead and share with me there. What do you notice the behavior of? Okay. Oh, I love that. Your teens still in stages 1 and 2. And I'll tell you what, here's why, because changes keep coming. There's still so much unknown. It's no wonder. Yes. 3, unproductive. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good. Frustrated. Okay. So here's what I'm hoping is that you will now have at least a couple of tools to get to recognize if somebody's in stage 1 or stage 2, what do they need? So if they're in stage 1, remember, if they're in stage 1 loss, they're going to need a sense of safety. Now I get it, sometimes physical, we don't know for sure, but what can you give them? Stage 2, what they need to move out of stage 2 is they need accurate and valid information, and lots of it. Listen, organizations, this is not the time to put information on a need-to-know basis. And a lot of companies do that. They get scared, they get worried, their rumors are flying around about layoffs or furloughs, and they go into closed door meetings. Well, that'll completely take your workforce. Woo! Because they'll be like, what's going on? How come the door's shut? I don't understand. Classic stage 1 and 2. So if you want to keep the doors open, communicate. Stage 2. Stage 3, discomfort. People need motivation. And make little bite-sized types. Something that makes them feel like, and truthfully, if you're in stage 3, be patient with yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. You'll come through it. You always have. You'll do it. Just stage 4 is coming. Stage 4, don't get stuck there feeling so good that you forget to make a decision and stall out brainstorming. Make a decision, move on to stage 5, keep focused on the benefits so that you can actually integrate this. Okay, let me give you one other cue that I want to share with you. Here's what that's difficult about this. A lot of times we forget Like if we're leaders and we find out about this change ahead of time, ahead of everybody else, here's how it shows up. We hear about it with our executive team, and we have the thought process as a group or just individual, and we're going through in our mind stages 1, 2, 3, make it over to 4, let's say. And then we announce it to the rest of our team. Naturally, they go right into stage 1 and start into classic behavior of stages 1 and 2. And our reaction, not knowing what's going on, is, what's the matter with you guys? Come on, how come you're always dragging your feet? Every time I make a suggestion, you drag your feet. Anybody? Anybody recognize? We forget that we had the luxury to just go through the cycle ahead of them. So here's what I would suggest. If you could, what if before you ever announced a change to anybody, you sat down with your team and planned out, how am I going to give them safety? How am I going to make sure I'm giving them plenty of information? How are we going to achieve motivation? Come up with a plan, and then when you announce the change, boom, all the actions that will help people move quickly through change, you're able to introduce. What a concept it could be if you could prepare ahead of time. And if nothing else, if you haven't heard anything else I've shared, I hope that learning this has given you an ability to release judgment on each other, on yourself. You start to see the thoughts of feelings, behavior going on. You go, oh, that's Fred because he's in stage 2. That's it. Nothing wrong with that. He's just in stage 2. That tells me what I need to get to Fred, and we can move on. So I know I've roared through it, and I hope this has been beneficial and helpful to you. Let me just say, my goal is to find out how I can be of assistance to you in helping you with the upcoming changes. These are some of the materials that we offer, that we have available. And let me just show you, I'm going to open up to questions for just a minute, but this is how you can reach me. And certainly through Margot and the North Georgia Community Foundation, I want to be a resource to you. So I want to open it up to answer any questions you have, thoughts. If you're thinking about, do you recognize where you are? Let me just leave it open for some questions. And for anyone else who needs to head out, I've just appreciated you, and thank you so much for letting me be here. But let me open it up. Questions. If you have a question, you want to unmute and ask me the question. I'm sure others could benefit, or you can put it in chat if you prefer. Let me stop sharing here.
So this is Dana Miller
Okay.
with Senior Achievement. I was wondering, can we get a hard copy of that presentation?
Dana, let's you and I talk about.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. Let me reach out to you offline about that. But because we did make a video of this, so that it could be viewed again by those who are part of North Georgia Community Foundation. But let's talk about it. In fact, send me your email in the chat, and I'll reach out to you, and we can talk about how that could work.
All right, sounds perfect.
Thanks,
Thank
Dana.
you.
Anybody else? Question? Oh, hang on a second. Here's a question. How to motivate those we're trying to reach but can't reach, meaning their head is still in the sand? Yeah, so what is head in the sand? Denial. That's stage 2. Because remember, even aggravation or anger can show up passive or aggressive. So some of it's going to be outward, and some of it's going to be withdrawing. And that head, this doesn't happen. It's not going on. And a lot of times they just are basing those feelings on less than totally accurate information. And I get it. We're kind of in an information war zone today. And that's made trying to get the truth out of things more difficult. But if you can stay with them and try to keep them informed, that can at least help them turning to you as a resource instead of social media or everywhere else. I hope that helps. Somebody else? So give me a thumbs up if you felt like this was beneficial. Excellent, excellent. I want to take a picture, y'all. Do you mind? I gotta get a smile. Okay, everybody smile. Oh, but yeah, turn on your cameras. You guys. All right, hold on. Yeah. Nice. Thank you so much. I'm going to stick around if anybody has a question that you want me to address. I thank you so much. Thank you, Margot, for letting me be here. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording. And if you have anything else you want to share, thank you guys. Appreciate you.